So today we will be analyzing data visualizations and charts and seeing which ones work best and creating a report based on a data set that we have chosen. I have chosen supermarket sales data, and so we'll be looking at areas of demographics and sales. So we'll be looking at the variables of customer type, payment method, customer rating, total sales, city, which is sales performance by city, time, which is sales by time of day, product line, and the unit price. So as we bring our data set in, we'll look at customer type first, and you'll see a pie chart as well as a bar graph. So the pie chart is clear. It's simple. You can see it's very evenly distributed. And when you look at the customer type by gender, it actually adds a little more context. So I personally chose customer type by gender as the better graph because the pie graph, although simple and organized, it doesn't add much detail. Whereas when you look at the bar graph and segmented by gender, it provides more insight into the composition of the customer base. And because of that, that's why I have chosen to use that graph in my report. Next, we will look at payment method. Again, I used the pie chart. I really wanted to get one in there. Don't think it's going to work. But here, you'll see that it shows that e-wallet and cash are basically used about the same percentage. Both are used about 3% more than credit cards. But as we look at it segmented by customer type, e-wallet again shows it is used the most, then cash, but credit card shows that members actually use credit cards more. So that is an insight that you would not have necessarily gotten from a pie chart above, and it could be useful later. So I feel the segmentation with customer type is the better choice. Next, we will look at customer rating. Here you'll see a histogram of the distribution of the customer ratings on a scale of 1 to 10. They rated between 4 and 5, and you can see the frequency of those ratings as well. I looked at a box plot. It did not necessarily add any detail, or it wasn't clear. It wasn't simple. It would need more explanation when talking to an audience. So I will elect not to use the box plot because it will leave people lacking understanding if they are not familiar with what a box plot shows or explains. Next, we will look at total sales. So this is total sales trending over time. This time period is 3 months, so we only see 1/4 of sales data or data in general in this deck. But it's very busy. It's very convoluted. It is hard to read. You don't know if it's up, down. It's just moving a lot, and it's very complex. And it doesn't reveal anything. So looked at it by month, and you can actually see clearly the amount of sales per month, and it's very self-explanatory. So for that reason, I will be using a bar chart, our bar graph, sorry. And next, we will look at the city sales performance by city. Here, I use a bar graph or a bar plot to show the sales by city. So very clearly, Yangon, I do not know the name, and Mandalay city sales. But I also broke it out by month. So this can actually show you which cities are performing well during what months. It can speak to if an event happened or something of that nature. So I will be using the total monthly sales by city. Next, we'll look at time of sales, sales by time of day. So here, this is in military time, and you'll see the number of transactions per hour. It's very clear, very easy to see, what peak hours are, where lower time periods are. And I also attempted to use a heat map. It is very confusing. There are multiple axes. The scale on the right is a little hard to understand and know what it is. The exponential values, it's just a lot going on, and it is very unclear. It's very complex, and it will not give understanding at first glance. So for that, I am not using the heat map. I really wanted to, but it did not come out as I expected. So I will be using the histogram. No, histogram sales by hour of day. Next, we'll look at the cost of goods sold by product line. We're going to look at it as a bar graph first. So it's very clear. You can see each product line, how much uh, cost of cost of goods sold. However, when we look at it by city, it gives much more detail. You can still see the product line, you can still see the cost of goods sold, but you can also see how each city performed in each of those areas. So I will be using this graph as well. Next, or lastly, we will just look at unit price. We'll be looking at it as a scatter plot as well as a histogram. The scatter plot here, it will be hard to understand or at first glance see. It could be the coloring, it could be the way that it's graphed. So it's not very easy to understand and see what the scatter plot is showing. The histogram does do a much better job of showing the unit price, the total number of transaction by unit price. So I will be using that one as well. So if I were to present this as a report, it would look something like this. The 2019 Q1 supermarket sales report, it'll include demographics, and it would give recommendations based on some of those graphs. Here, I'm not going to read it all for the sake of time. You can read it if you'd like. You can pause the video and read it. But you can see the customer type by gender as it is distributed and the payment method by the customer type. And we can see that the members are using more credit cards than other normal customers. Our customer ratings are pretty steady. We see more ratings around 6 and 7. So that means we still have some room for improvement. Total monthly sales are pretty stable and steady as well. Each city is remaining pretty steady. Each month is a different leader, so there's no clear front runner. They are pretty steady. And sales by hour of day, we see most of the sales happen right at 7 o'clock, right before closing, and the lowest peak time is around 4 or 5 o'clock. So that may be a good time to make some transitions, restock, and things of that nature. And looking at cost of goods sold, we see that home and lifestyle section, Yangan is really doing well in that section. So if anything is coming down the pipeline for home and lifestyle, I would recommend putting it at Yangan. And lastly, we see that the histogram shows that the unit price is not affecting the transactions. As the unit price goes up, the transactions stay pretty normal. And even at the peak, the unit price, as it increases to the highest point, that's actually where we have the most transactions. So if I had to give a report, it would look something like that. I hope you enjoy it.